2 years out of Annapolis, a young officer in the Navy is up on the tower of a submarine during a horrible storm, and a wave washes him off. Reports say he luckily took hold of a 5-inch deck gun and was able to get himself back on the tower. Had he missed the grab, he would have drowned. That young officer went on to become the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter.
Fate is, has a strange way of working, but because he survived that, we have everything that followed.
The son of a peanut farmer, Jimmy Carter had intended on a career in the Navy.
He was a very good student. He graduated 59th out of 820.
Rear Admiral Samuel Cox is the commanding director of Naval History and Heritage. He points out that Carter was the only president who attended Annapolis. Cox says Carter was graduated early because his class was expecting to fight in World War II.
He's going through the course, he's expecting to graduate 45, 46, and be involved in the invasion of Japan. So he and his classmates are watching reading about the kamikazes off of Okinawa. So he's anticipating to be in some really bad, situations. But atomic bomb ended the war early. He was shocked that he had not the slightest hint that that weapon existed. And he wrote about that, later life.
Carter became a submariner. Admiral Hyman Rickover chose him to be part of the Navy nuclear power program, working with the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. In 1952, when a nuclear reactor at a Canadian research facility partially melted down, the Navy turned to Carter.
He got tasked to lead a team up there to assist with the cleanup, and they had to build a complete replica of the reactor so that they could practice every move. Because of the radiation, anyone who went into the space could only be there for 90 seconds, and then they had to get out. So even Carter took a turn, going into the contaminated area where he basically had a wrench and 90 seconds to go down and one thing to screw and then get back up.
Despite his military success, the unexpected death of his father in '53 cut Carter's Navy career short. He went home to Plains, Georgia to oversee the farm. He ended up getting involved in politics and ran for the highest office at a time of upheaval. It was post-Watergate, and it was an ugly time in American politics. Carter was viewed as honest, a man with morals and principles, and he won. But his time in office was plagued with problems. There was high inflation, there was an oil crisis that sent the price of gas skyrocketing, and then there was the Iranian hostage crisis. More than 50 Americans taken hostage by Iranian students at the U.S. Embassy. A failed rescue attempt left 8 Americans dead, and their bodies were not recovered. The hostages were held for 444 days. Critics argue that Carter was a weak commander-in-chief.
You're president, you get credit for stuff you had nothing to do with, and you get blamed for stuff that you really couldn't do anything about. And you could argue that it wasn't his policies that caused, inflation or unemployment. But as your president, you take the flak for it.
Admiral Cox points out there were some milestones during his term. The biggest, he says, was Carter working to bring peace to the Middle East.
It'd have to be the Camp David Accords, which resulted in the Israel and Egyptian, peace treaty. That is arguably one of the most momentous diplomatic achievements since the Second World War.
But the issues at home did not subside, and Carter would only serve one term. He was soundly defeated by Republican Ronald Reagan. Admiral Cox says Carter may likely be best remembered for what he did after he left office. He built homes for Habitat for Humanity and helped eradicate the tropical disease guinea worm. As he did in the Navy, so he did later in life. Serve others.
Well, I hope they remember his moral courage. To me, that's what set him apart. When you're a politician, there's always spin involved, but outright lying, which you see, nowadays is just, that was anathema to him. I mean, he internalized the Naval Academy, will not lie, cheat, or steal, and I believe he represented that throughout his career and his life.
Carl Willis, 7 News.